A quick check-in on El Nino. We got volcanoes going off in Italy. People are changing spending patterns. Food's getting too expensive. And now a massive push for emergency fertilizer production as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Looking for the big picture, how this all fits together? Well, I think this is going to be a glimpse into the future right here, as several things layer on top to create one scenario that's going to push prices for the rest of the year. So you got to get ready for this. Let's check in on El Nino. The forecast here now bringing us up to 3.5 degrees Celsius above the normal. Wow, that's incredibly warm. The ramp up is beginning now in May, and we're starting to measure off the temperatures. I jumped over to the global 2-meter temperature anomaly to see what we're looking at off of South America going west out to Indonesia and Asia. And in the red down there, the average above the baseline is 0.288 degrees Celsius. Keep an eye on what's happening off of South America, and we'll see how then the weather around the world, especially rainfall patterns, shifts and how that's going to affect crop production. Mount Etna, whoa, this is some of the tallest fountaining they have seen to date. You know, people are just booking tours and holidays just to go up and watch Etna. It's pretty much a continuous event now. And Campi Flegrei, also, they're talking about land subsidence off the coast. They're sliding into the Mediterranean. This could be something to keep an eye on as Kilauea also continues to fountain. Let's go to the EV debacle. We got Ferrari, $640,000 electric vehicle. White in the background, orange in the front there. You think it'd be red, a Ferrari red, but I guess not. It needs to be a little different. It is an EV. Looks very similar to a lot of others. I've seen comparisons and people giving it test drives, and looks inside beautiful luxury interior, but they were saying you can get the same thing pretty much for like 100 grand if it depends on which manufacturer you go to. Even Mercedes does one for like 160. That's literally 3 times less. So they're just saying they're trying to sell you an extra $500,000 or $250,000 just for the name on the thing. And then it's really, comparatively to the rest of the EVs, it doesn't stand up. There's so many that have better performance and longer battery charge times, etc. Something that's going to affect all of us for vehicles and all of our electronics and anything electrical is these copper prices that keep going up and up. You know, back in January, I reported on this, there was around $7,000, and all the forecasts were saying it's going to go up to 10. Well, we're already up to almost 14. And the projections now from all the other analysts are going, we're going to 20,000 per ton. And it does look like an up and up trend. It's going to take months and months before this rolls over on those two moving averages. So this just is another nail in the coffin for pricing here. Everything that we buy that involves electronics is going to continue to go up. So you thought you could escape it with the battery technologies, but a lot of that also requires rare earth minerals, which are going up and up. There's really nowhere to like escape from this inflation wave. I guess you could buy a 1960 or 70 vehicle and try to fix that up and continuously buy parts if you can find it. Then you got to spend the time to go to, you know, auto graveyards and dig around in there and find what you need. But that is available. But whatever way you try to look at life, from the rent to the house price to the food to anything you buy, electronics, and now we got the plastic shortages for motherboards, etc. Certain types of plastics out of the Middle East, Hormuz Strait still blocked off. It is just becoming one giant intertangled type of inflationary wave here. And a few signs of life still. Looking at the Hormuz traffic, you know, we had a few ships leave. Most of those were coming to Asia, by the way. Since I'm out here in Asia right now, everybody's jumping for joy. There were 7 super tankers, VLCCs, that were bound out here for Asia. It's going to alleviate some of the shortages. Nothing with the naphtha on the plastic side, but just straight up crude oil coming into the refineries, going to be posting into Asia here this week. But the rest of the world's still pretty much on the very idle small down there, not much moving. Now, with this said, yesterday I was talking about crop shortages on the wheat side, and suddenly we find ourselves in fertilizer declared national security priority for domestic production.
Here's what your financial advisor won't tell you. By the time the news tells you to buy gold, it's too late. You're waiting? I get it. Everybody's waiting. Waiting to see if the ceasefire holds, waiting to see if the Strait of Hormuz reopens, waiting to see what happens next. But gold isn't waiting for you. It moves on fear and instability into the unknown, and it moves faster than you can react. So while you're waiting for certainty, the rest of the world is planning for what comes next. You can wait or you can prepare. You can't do both. Remember, the best time to put on a seatbelt is before the accident, not after. If you're ready to act, reach out to Noble Gold Investments. They help Americans protect their savings with a physical gold and silver shipped to your door or held in a tax-advantaged IRA. No taxes, no penalties to roll over a 401k or existing IRA. Visit 2030gold.com and download your free wealth protection kit today. That's 2030gold.com. The rules are changing. Make sure you're ready. And the May Gold Bonus for a limited time offer, a free 10th ounce gold coin for all new qualified accounts. Please note, coin selection is based on available inventory. Again, that's 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below.
Okay, so the USDA and Trump administration unveiled a long-term fertilizer strategy plan focused on boosting U.S. production and fast-tracking projects to lower costs. FYI, to get one of those plants up, 5 years. I mean, it's great that this has moved forward a little bit, but in reality, we're still back where we were yesterday and we'll be tomorrow. To get these facilities up and running, to get the labor out there, people are just, the experience for building these and constructing these facilities just isn't there. People have retired, dropped out. I mean, it's very on the experience side of things, getting leaner out there. And the same thing with mechanics. I've been watching a couple videos on mechanics and just the brain drain out of that whole field of technicians to be able to repair automobiles. All the dealership mechanics, they're moving over to the diesel, that sort of thing out on the fields where they can get a higher pay, all that experience, 20 years experience, roll out into diesel mechanics, man, they're losing it. So the experience to even put one of these together, plus the materials, that's just not happening. 5 years would be generous to say, probably looking closer to 7 to get out a fertilizer manufacturing facility in the US. And then where's the feedstock come from? Oh, wait, that's a whole nother set of pipelines and regulation to overcome. And that's what this whole legislation is about, is getting the feedstocks through the pipe, natural gas, to other places, and the NIMBYs, getting them out of the way so the construction can take place in the actual ground facilities. But again, we're talking years for that. We're getting hungry this year. I just saw a report that said the wheat production in America is back to 1919 levels. Now, I want to bring you that tomorrow. I want to dig in a little bit further into that, really see what we're looking at in terms of that over 100 years decline in production. Because, sorghum, the same exact thing happened with sorghum over the last couple of years. Sorghum crop was the lowest in 100 years. So now, sorghum's an off crop. It's good for, animal feed. It's an ancient grain. It's a subset market, niche market, except for on the feed side of things and biodiesel feedstock thing. But wheat, that's a major commodity crop. Bringing us back on 100-year lows on that, that's going to drive prices up crazy. And speaking of that, here's your wheat. We're looking at good to excellent. That's way over on the far side over there. So Kansas, one of the main, like when you think wheat in America, you're thinking like Kansas, Nebraska, these sort of Oklahoma. But I would have you and encourage you to be scared to look at the right side of the Kansas wheat. Good to excellent, only 15% of the wheat this year is in that category. And if you go to the left side, it's the very poor. That's a quarter of the wheat almost. And then you add the poor in there, and that's half. Very poor to poor, over half the crop is that. And if you combine everything in America in terms of wheat production, it is only 25% of our wheat harvest this year is good to excellent. That means the other 75% is, animal feed or biodiesel feedstock. That's our food. Things are going to get expensive on the food side. Jumping over to California, saw this one on Fortune magazine, wanted to dive into it a little more deeply. 420,000 peach trees because Del Monte closing its cannery. That sounds like a purposeful thing. Can't tell me that they've been running for 60 years and then they decided to close this week. Ridiculous. They process 30% of the state's cling peaches. And when you're looking at such a disruption, California, with all their legislation to do everything else under the sun, you think they would be able to regulate and say, whoa, you can't close down and put all these farmers out of business and like completely rip apart the livelihoods of the farming community and just all the ridiculousness of spending in California. And this is the very lowest on the list here. So California farmers have to destroy 420,000 trees. That's a $500 million contract. I mean, it's 550 million, a little more than that. But I put down there in blue highlighted, Department of Agriculture approved up to $9 million in federal relief funding to help California farmers do what? Remove their orchards. Wait a minute, remove the orchards? That emergency funding should be to push into the cannery to keep it open. That emergency funding should put for more, water canals to get to the farmers. It should be doing something else than using that funds to reduce the food supply in America further. I know not a lot of people as a staple crop eat peaches, but it is food. And imagine how many cans of peaches that is, depending on this, how many hundreds of millions of peaches would come off. Because I have peach trees in Tennessee. They're so prolific. Oh my gosh, you're getting 1,000 peaches off of every tree at the minimum. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller. I try to go through and thin them out early in the year so I can get to the larger peaches at the end. So if there's a bunch of peaches, and when I say bunch, there'll be 5 or 6 growing off of one node. I try to pinch 6 of those off and leave maybe 2, or if I see one really dominating, I'll trim all the other ones off. So all that energy goes into the one peach times 420,000 trees. How much food is that taken away out of the canning facility? We're talking millions, tens of millions of cans of that. And speaking of dodo birds, let's talk Guinea fowl. They are the good tick hunters. Everybody's talking about ticks these days, so I wanted to bring you some Guinea fowl here. We've had a few of these, and I'll absolutely attest. These are the craziest tick hunters. We didn't have any ticks around our property just because these birds were out there. And they're kind of guard birds, too. They're really alert you if something is out of the ordinary. They get their normal routines, and if something's out, they just start making noise. Better than guard dogs, actually. Encourage you to take a look at the Guinea fowl. As always, trying to bring you some solutions along with the problems here and wrap this into one full idea so you can get something out of every video. And I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time here. And share this with your friends and family. You're going to have to copy the link, share it out. And also, if you want to grow some of your own food, I got the link right here for you, trueleafmarket.com. Heirloom organic seeds. Love the quality there. Great germination rate. You can find anything that you can grow in any grow zone. So links in the description box below, and it helps keep the channel on air if you purchase something. But we are all going to need solutions together. So please share with friends and family. And if you want to cut the video in pieces and share it out in your social, please do that as well. I will see you next time. Bye for now.